I was standing in my own garage, wrench in hand, when I heard my daughter's voice cut through the air like a knife. "Dad, get out of here right now. Tyler's parents are coming over, and your tools make this place look like a junkyard." My name is Rick Coleman, I'm 65 years old, and at that moment I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. This was my garage, my workshop, the place where I'd built half the cabinets in this house, fixed every broken thing, taught Jessica how to change a tire when she was 16. But there she stood, arms crossed, looking at me like I was some kind of intruder. "Jessica, this is my garage," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I've been working in here for 30 years. Not anymore," she replied without missing a beat. "Tyler and I need this space to look professional when his parents visit. Your mess is embarrassing." Tyler appeared behind her, that fake smile plastered on his face. The same smile he'd worn when he asked me to help them with their house down payment 2 years ago. "Sorry, Rick. You understand, right? First impressions matter." I understood all right. I understood that my own daughter was kicking me out of my workshop so her fancy in-laws wouldn't see that their son married into a blue-collar family. But what I didn't understand yet was that this was just the beginning. See, when my wife Carol died 10 years ago, Jessica was all I had left. She'd been the perfect daughter, good grades, respectful, called every week. When she married Tyler, I thought I was gaining a son. When they asked for help buying their dream house, I didn't hesitate to give them $50,000 of my retirement savings. It was everything Carol and I had scraped together from my construction business. "We'll pay you back, Dad," Jessica had promised. "And hey, you could even move in with us if you want. There's plenty of room." But I liked my independence, liked my little house, my garage, my routine. So I stayed put and helped them with what they said were home improvement projects. New roof, foundation work, updated electrical, all the things a house needs. At least that's what they told me. Standing in that garage, watching my daughter's cold eyes, something clicked. It wasn't just about the garage. It was about how she'd been treating me for months. Short answers to my calls, rushed visits, always some excuse why I couldn't come over. And now this. I set down my wrench and walked inside. The house was bustling with activity, Jessica arranging flowers, Tyler setting up wine glasses, everything perfect for the important guests. I sat in my old recliner and tried to make sense of what was happening to my family. The garage had always been my sanctuary. When Carol was sick, those last 2 years, I'd go out there to cry where she couldn't see me. When work stress got too much, I'd lose myself in a woodworking project. When Jessica was a teenager and we'd fight about curfews or boyfriends, I'd retreat to my workbench until we both cooled down. Carol used to bring me coffee out there on Saturday mornings. She'd sit on the old stool I'd made her, and we'd plan our weekend projects. Fix the fence, paint the shutters, plant new roses, simple things that made our house a home. "You spend more time with those tools than you do with me," she'd tease. "That's because the tools don't argue back," I'd say, and she'd throw a shop rag at my head. But tonight, watching Tyler's parents arrive in their luxury sedan, seeing Jessica put on her perfect hostess act, I realized that garage represented something bigger. It was proof of who I was, a man who could build things, fix things, make things better with his own hands, and Jessica was ashamed of that. Tyler's father was everything I wasn't. Retired bank vice president, played golf at the country club, wore suits even on weekends. His wife talked about their vacation home in the Hamptons and their son's promising career in finance. They looked at my little house like they were visiting a museum of working-class life. Rick built most of the custom work in here himself, Tyler mentioned once during dinner, and I saw his father's polite but dismissive nod, like my 30 years of craftsmanship was some quaint hobby. After they left, I sat alone in my living room listening to Jessica and Tyler clean up in the kitchen. Their voices carried and I caught fragments of their conversation. Need to do something about the house property values in this neighborhood. When the time comes, I couldn't make out everything, but the tone was clear. They were making plans that involved me, and I wasn't part of the discussion. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the garage incident, about Jessica's embarrassment, about Tyler's fake politeness. Something was wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on what exactly. I got up around 2 a.m. and walked through my house, the house Carol and I had bought as newlyweds 35 years ago. Every room had memories. Jessica's first steps in the living room, teaching her to ride a bike in the driveway. Carol's last Christmas, weak but determined to cook one more family meal. This house was more than just property to me. It was the foundation of everything I'd built, everything I was proud of. But looking at it through Tyler's parents' eyes earlier that evening, I saw what they saw: outdated wallpaper, worn carpets, furniture that had seen better days. Maybe Jessica was right to be embarrassed. Maybe I was holding her back from the life she wanted. But that thought hurt worse than anything she could have said to my face. The next morning, I decided to do something I'd never done before. I went through Jessica's things, not to snoop, exactly, but to understand what was happening to my family. She and Tyler had left early for work, and I had my spare key to their house from when I helped with the yard work. Walking through their place, I was struck by how expensive everything looked. The furniture, the artwork, the kitchen appliances, all top-of-the-line stuff that cost serious money. More money than two mid-level office workers should be able to afford, especially ones who claimed they needed help with basic home repairs. I found what I was looking for in Tyler's home office. Hidden in the bottom drawer of his desk were invoices and receipts, lots of them. But they weren't for the home improvements Jessica had told me about. They were for a European vacation last spring, a new BMW, designer clothes, spa treatments, thousands and thousands of dollars spent on luxury items while they told me they needed money for roof repairs. My hands shook as I flipped through the paperwork. There were bank statements showing my $50,000 deposit into their account, followed immediately by withdrawals for personal expenses. No contractors, no materials, no actual home improvements. It had all been a lie, but the worst was yet to come. At the bottom of the stack was a property document I didn't recognize. It was a transfer of ownership for my house with my signature on it, except I'd never signed any such thing. I stared at that paper until my eyes watered. Someone had forged my signature and transferred my property to Jessica. My own daughter had stolen my house while I was helping her buy hers. I took photos of everything with my phone, my construction worker hands fumbling with the small buttons. After 30 years in the business, I knew the importance of documentation. Every job site taught you to keep records of everything, and this was no different. The drive home was a blur. I kept thinking about all the times Jessica had asked me to sign papers. Just routine stuff, Dad. Bank documents, property renewals, boring legal things. I'd trusted her completely, signed whatever she put in front of me without reading the fine print. Carol always said I was too trusting, too willing to see the best in people. You need to read before you sign, Rick. Don't just take someone's word for it, even if they're family. She was right as usual. But I never thought I'd need to protect myself from my own daughter. That afternoon, I called my old lawyer buddy from the construction days, Pete Martinez. We'd worked together on dozens of commercial projects back when I was running Coleman Construction. Pete handled all the contracts, made sure nobody tried to cheat us on materials or labor costs. Pete, I need help. I think my daughter has been stealing from me. Stealing how, Rick? Money, property, everything. Can you meet me today? 2 days later, I sat in Pete's office with all the evidence spread out on his conference table. Photos of the invoices, the bank statements, the forged property transfer. Pete whistled low when he saw the signature on the house deed. Rick, this is fraud. Elder fraud. She could go to prison for this. I don't want her in prison, I said, though part of me wasn't sure that was true anymore. I want my money back and my house back. Can we do that? Pete nodded grimly. We can try, but first we need more evidence. Can you get recordings of them admitting what they did? That's when I remembered something from my construction days. We'd used surveillance equipment on job sites to prevent theft of tools and materials. I still had some of that gear in storage from when I sold the business. How legal would it be if I recorded conversations in my own house? In your house, perfectly legal. It's your property, your right to know what's being said under your roof. Over the next week, I became a different person. Instead of the trusting father, I became an investigator. I installed tiny cameras in my house, hidden where Jessica and Tyler would never think to look. Behind picture frames, inside old radio speakers, even one in the garage tucked behind my toolbox. The equipment wasn't fancy, but it worked. After 30 years of dealing with electrical systems and security setups on construction sites, I knew enough to wire everything properly and route the feeds to a recording device hidden in my basement. I documented every lie they told me about needing money for home repairs, every fake story about emergency expenses, every manipulation designed to get me to sign papers or write checks. The breakthrough came when I caught them on camera planning their next move. I'd invited them over for Sunday dinner, same as always, but this time I was recording everything. Your dad's getting suspicious, Tyler said, thinking they were alone in the kitchen while I was supposedly napping in my chair. We need to accelerate the timeline. Relax, Jessica replied, and hearing her voice on the recording later nearly broke my heart. So cold, so calculated. He's too trusting. We'll have him sign the final papers next week, and then we can sell both houses. Dad will never know what hit him. What about him? Where's he supposed to live? Jessica's answer was the moment I knew I'd lost my daughter forever. That's not our problem. He should have saved more for retirement instead of spending everything on this dump. The house I'd bought with Carol, where we'd raised Jessica, where I'd built every shelf and painted every room with my own hands, where Carol had died in our bedroom, holding my hand and telling me to take care of our little girl. To Jessica, it was just a dump to be sold for profit. I had enough evidence to bury them both, but Pete had taught me that in legal battles, you can't have too much proof. So I kept digging, kept recording, kept building my case like I was planning the foundation for the most important building of my life, because in a way I was building the foundation for getting my life back. I started following their spending patterns through credit card statements I found during my visits to their house. While they told me they were struggling financially and needed help with basic expenses, they were actually living like millionaires. 300 dinners, weekend trips to Napa, shopping sprees at high-end stores, all funded by my retirement savings. The hardest part wasn't the money though, it was watching Jessica lie to my face week after week. She'd call me up, voice full of fake concern, asking how I was doing. Then she'd mention some new emergency that required money. Dad, the water heater is acting up again. The repair guy says it might need to be replaced. Could you help us out? We're still catching up from the roof repair. Of course, there was no roof repair, no water heater emergency, just another way to drain my bank account while funding their luxury lifestyle. I started keeping a detailed log, just like I used to do on construction jobs. Date, time, who said what, how much money was requested. The pattern was clear. Every time their credit card bills came due, Jessica would suddenly discover another household crisis that required my financial help. During one of these conversations, I tested her. You know, Jess, if money's really that tight, maybe you and Tyler should consider downsizing. Sell that big house, get something more affordable. The panic in her voice was immediate. Oh no, Dad, we can't do that. Tyler's career, you know. We need to maintain a certain image. Plus, we've put so much work into this place. Work that I'd paid for with money they'd stolen from me. The final piece of evidence came when I discovered they'd taken out a home equity loan against their house, using my forged signature as collateral. They'd essentially stolen my creditworthiness along with my money. When that loan came due and they couldn't pay, it would be my credit score that took the hit. Pete was amazed when I showed him everything I'd gathered. Rick, this is better than most fraud cases I've seen from professional investigators. You've documented everything. 30 years in construction teaches you to keep good records, I said. Every change order, every material delivery, every payment. You document it all or you get screwed. Well, your daughter definitely picked the wrong father to screw over. 3 months after that day in the garage, Pete filed our lawsuit. The process was surprisingly simple. Fill out forms, pay fees, wait for the court to process everything. Just like pulling permits for a construction job, only instead of building something, I was tearing down the lies my daughter had built around me. Jessica and Tyler were served papers at their fancy house on a Tuesday morning. I know because I was watching from across the street, parked in my old pickup truck. I wanted to see their faces when reality hit. The look on Jessica's face when she opened that envelope was something I'll never forget. Pure shock, then panic, then anger. She immediately pulled out her phone and started dialing. Within an hour, my phone was ringing. Dad, what is this? Why are you suing us? We're family. Family doesn't steal from each other. Jessica, steal. Dad, you're confused. You gave us that money willingly. You wanted to help us. I gave you money for home improvements that never happened, and I sure as hell never signed my house over to you. The silence on the other end told me everything I needed to know. She'd been caught and she knew it. Dad, let's talk about this. We can work something out. You don't want to drag family business through the courts. We'll talk in court. That night, Tyler showed up at my door. Gone was the fake friendliness, the polite son-in-law act. This was the real Tyler, cold, calculating, desperate. Rick, you need to drop this lawsuit. Jessica is devastated. She's your only daughter. She was my only daughter. Now she's just someone who stole from me. Look, maybe we can pay you back over time. Work out a payment plan. With what the money you stole from me, the credit you destroyed by forging my name, Tyler's mask slipped further. You're a bitter old man who can't stand to see his daughter succeed. You're jealous that we've built something better than your little construction business ever was. That's when I knew I'd made the right choice, because Tyler had just revealed what they really thought of me, not as family to be respected, but as an obstacle to be removed. Get off my property, I told him, and don't come back. The legal process took 6 months. During that time, Jessica tried everything: tears, anger, manipulation, even bringing Tyler's parents to my house to convince me to drop the lawsuit. His father, the retired bank vice president, actually had the nerve to lecture me about family loyalty and Christian forgiveness. Mr. Coleman, surely you can find it in your heart to forgive a young couple's mistake. A mistake is forgetting to pay a bill, I told him. Stealing $50,000 and forging property deeds isn't a mistake. It's a crime. But I had something Jessica didn't expect: a backbone and enough evidence to sink a battleship. Pete was brilliant in how he laid out the case. He organized everything chronologically, like a construction timeline showing how the fraud developed from small lies to major crimes. The fake invoices for home improvements that never happened, the forged signatures on property transfers, the recorded conversations where they planned to sell both houses without my knowledge. The pattern of emotional manipulation designed to keep me signing checks and trusting papers. Your Honor, Pete said during one hearing, this isn't just theft. This is a systematic campaign of elder abuse designed to strip Mr. Coleman of everything he worked 30 years to build. Jessica hired an expensive lawyer, probably with money she'd stolen from me, but expensive doesn't always mean good, and their defense was weak from the start. How do you explain away recorded conversations? How do you justify forged signatures? How do you claim poverty while living like millionaires? The answer is, you can't. When Jessica took the stand to defend herself, she crumbled under cross-examination. Pete had prepared for this moment like we used to prepare for difficult job site inspections, every detail checked, every potential problem anticipated. Miss Hayes, Pete said, using her married name with obvious purpose, you testified that your father gave you $50,000 for home improvements. Can you tell the court exactly which improvements were made? Jessica stumbled through an answer about roofing and electrical work. Then Pete produced the bank records showing the money had been spent on vacations and luxury items within days of the deposit. So the roof work was actually a BMW. Is that correct? She couldn't explain why she needed $15,000 for a roof that was never repaired. She couldn't justify the BMW purchase while claiming financial hardship. She couldn't even look me in the eye when the judge asked her directly if she'd forged my signature. Tyler didn't even testify. His expensive lawyer advised him to stay quiet, which probably saved him from perjury charges, but didn't help their case. The judge was a no-nonsense woman in her 60s named Patricia Wong. She'd seen plenty of elder abuse cases and had zero tolerance for adult children who preyed on their parents. Mrs. Hayes, she said to Jessica, using her married name with obvious distaste, your actions represent a particularly cruel form of betrayal. You've stolen not just from your father's wallet, but from his trust, his security, and his peace of mind. The ruling came down hard. Jessica and Tyler had to return my $50,000 plus $10,000 in interest and damages, plus my attorney's fees. They also had to transfer my house back to my name and pay a $5,000 fine for elder fraud. Total cost to them, $75,000 plus their own legal fees and a fraud conviction on their records. But the real victory wasn't the money, it was watching their perfect facade crumble. Within 3 months of the judgment, they were forced to sell the BMW to make payments. Tyler's parents cut them off financially once they learned about the fraud. His law firm started an ethics investigation when background checks revealed his involvement in elder abuse. Jessica lost her promotion at work when her conviction showed up in routine screening. Their marriage didn't survive either. Turns out Tyler had only been interested in Jessica when she came with a wealthy, generous father. Once that money dried up and she became a financial liability, he filed for divorce. As for me, I used the settlement money to buy a smaller house with a proper workshop attached. Not fancy, but mine. Every square inch paid for with honest money, not stolen from family who trusted me. I started a handyman business helping other seniors with home repairs. Word spread quickly in the community. Here was a guy who understood what older folks needed, who wouldn't overcharge or take advantage. Turned out there was good money and honest work, and I had more clients than I could handle. Jessica called me once after her divorce was finalized. She was crying, said she was sorry that she'd made mistakes and wanted to rebuild our relationship. Part of me, the father part, wanted to forgive her and try again. But I'd learned something important during those 6 months of legal battle. Enabling someone's bad behavior isn't love, it's weakness. Jessica needed to face the consequences of her choices before she could become the person I'd tried to raise her to be. I'm sorry you're hurting, I told her. But sorry doesn't give me back 10 years of retirement security or the trust I had in my only child. Maybe someday we can talk again, but not today. I hung up and went to my workshop. I had a bookshelf to finish for Mrs. Patterson down the street, and she was paying me good money for quality work. Honest money, earned through skill and effort, not stolen through lies and forgery. Sometimes at night, I think about what Carol would say about all this. I think she'd be proud that I finally stood up for myself. She always said I was too soft on Jessica, too willing to give her everything she wanted without making her earn it. You're raising a princess, not a person. Carol used to warn me. She was right. But it's never too late to stop enabling bad behavior. Even when it comes from people you love these days, I sleep well at night. My little house is paid for, my workshop is exactly how I want it, and I don't owe anybody anything. Most importantly, I learned that real family doesn't steal from you, manipulate you, or treat you like garbage in your own home. The people who do those things aren't family anymore, no matter what their DNA says. And sometimes the best way to love someone is to let them face the consequences of their choices. Jessica is 38 years old now, divorced, struggling to rebuild her life and her reputation. Maybe this experience will teach her something about integrity and respect. Maybe it won't, but either way, it's not my problem to solve anymore. I did my job raising her for 18 years. After that, her choices are her own responsibility, and me. I'm finally free to enjoy my golden years without worrying about who's trying to take advantage of me next, because now I know better. Now I verify everything, trust carefully, and keep my important papers in a safe place where only I have access. It took losing $50,000 and almost losing my house to learn that lesson, but I learned it well. And that knowledge, expensive as it was, gave me something priceless. My self-respect and my peace of mind, not a bad trade for a 65-year-old guy who thought he was too old to learn new tricks. Sometimes the people who hurt us the most are the ones we die for, but that doesn't mean we have to let them kill us slowly. Trust is like a foundation. Once it's cracked, you don't just patch it up and hope for the best. Sometimes you have to tear it down and rebuild from scratch, even if it means building somewhere else entirely.